Hey everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about the time periods makeup. So this is going to be chapter, I don't even remember, 11, I think. No, 10. Chapter 10. So this will be going through Classical Greek, Renaissance, Elizabethan, Restoration in 18th century, Edwardian, and Jazz Age. I'm gonna try to do all of them in this single video, and then I'll put timestamps so that you know where to actually click to for the different looks. But a lot of these are very similar. I will be talking about the male versions of each of these things when we get to them. However, I'm going to be doing the female version on my face. So, chapter 10. So when you're doing theater, there's going to be times when you're going to be doing period pieces. So, for example, we did Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, and that was set in Edwardian times. There's a lot of things that are set in Greek, especially when you're doing Greek theater, as well as Jazz Age, things like that. So whenever you're doing your makeup for a specific time period, it's important to think about the trends and the styles and what was in vogue at that time period. So let's start with Classical Greek. So while I talk about this, I'm just going to take off my street makeup and then put on Classical Greek. So something that was really important to the Greeks was symmetry and proportion. So obviously this is something that you're going for in most makeup, trying to make your face look symmetrical and all of that, but they wanted really symmetrical noses and cheeks and eyes and everything like that. And they were trying to go for a really strong makeup style in that. So strong forehead, strong nose, large lips, all of these very kind of Greek Roman look styles, right? And it doesn't matter what your heritage is, you can actually use makeup to make yourself look a little bit more Greek, Roman, all of that. So by strengthening the nose, lips, making the eyes stand out a little bit more. So for this, I'm going to be starting with my dark and going in with that first and kind of building up from that. And then go in with my medium. Just start filling in kind of the center of the face where those highlights are going to be, but broader than that. So kind of just the T-zone, right? And then onto the cheekbones a little bit, just to start doing that contour work. And then with the lightest color, just really starting to exaggerate those features. Cheekbones, forehead, nose. And I'm still using my sponge for this, right? Jawline. Nice square jawline. And then temples. Yeah. I'm not gonna blend this because I'm gonna be going in with my highlight and shadow next. So, shadow, this guy. Pretty high cheekbones, right? So I'm not going too far down with this. I want to, yeah, that's a little far down. Really go in strongly. Make sure that you're going all the way up to the hairline. From the corner of the eyebrow up, corner of the eyebrow up. Make sure that's actually symmetrical. Cool. And then nice strong nose. So just down the side, all the way down there. And under just a little bit. And then jawline, jawline, and forehead, which I'm just gonna do little arrows basically. Yeah, lovely. See the placement for that. And I'm not even gonna blend that out yet. Highlight. Actually, my highlight is basically the same color as my lightest base. Really accentuate the lips. But I'm not going to use clown white like we would in drag, just because we're still going for a fairly realistic look. And I'm going to use my sponge and blend. And I know that by the end of this class you're going to be tired of hearing it, but do not overblend. She says, overblending. All right, I'll go back and fix that temple. So I'm just doing little bouncy this, right? I'm not trying to completely obliterate it. I want it to still be definitely there, my contour. Oh, I forgot to do under the lip. Go back and fix that. I'm just softening that line. I'm not completely erasing it. And just stippling up. Yeah. So the makeup is still definitely there. I think this side turned out better. Kind of overblended on that side. So I'm gonna go back in, and this is just gonna be a give and take, right? Under the lip with the shadow, over the lip for the highlight. Put that line back in. I think I'm just gonna use my brush. I don't wanna overblend that. I have a tendency to overblend when I use the sponge. Yeah. Lovely. Now I'm gonna put lips, cheeks, eyes, all of that on. Eyebrows. So I'm gonna start with lips. So I'm using my bruise wheel actually. I'm using the red from my bruise wheel. And just using brush on that. So men, you might want to choose a darker color. So if you want to put a little bit of brown in that, go for it. If you want to go with more of a neutral lip, it's also an option. But women, you can go a little bit rosier with this. So you should have blush in your kit. Looks something like this, a blush brush. And I'm just gonna go from basically the outside of the eye corner up. So we don't want to do rosy, pretty little cheeks here for Greek. You're trying to really accentuate that jawbone. So in between the highlight and the shadow, up. Yeah. High cheekbones. And then for the eyebrows, try to pick something that's a couple shades darker than your natural eyebrow. So I'm gonna use the brown from my, oh gosh, what is this, a contour wheel? It's this guy. I might need to grab another mirror. Oh, look at that. And we're not trying to make them super thin. You're supposed to be strong, kind of dark eyebrows, right? So really giving strength to the face. especially for the men, but the women too, right? I'm gonna do a little bit of eyeshadow. So I'm just using the mauve color. I'm just gonna fill in kind of from the iris out with the mauve, just to help give a little bit more shape and color to the eyes. Take the black from that. I'm just gonna use the video and give yourself some eyeliner. I just do the top lid, but if you want to do both top and bottom, it's acceptable. Oof. And then if you have mascara, you can also put mascara on to help really sell the big, strong eyes. All right, that should be Greek makeup. Okay, so that was Greek. Let's talk about Renaissance. So I'm gonna, again, talk about this as I take stuff off from my skin. So the Renaissance is basically the 15th and 16th century. Oh, I guess I should have clarified with the Greek. We're talking about classical Greek, not modern Greek. And specifically the Italian Renaissance. So not Elizabethan, not like big froofy collars and stuff like that. We're talking about Italian Renaissance. We'll get into Elizabethan when we get to Elizabethan, right? So 15th, 16th century, this would be the 1400s through the 1500s, yeah. So the art from that time, if you go back and look at it, there's a lot of kind of light and flowiness to the women and strength and symmetry to the men. So for the fashion of the time, this also went into the makeup. So for men, this would be broad, strong brows and strong eyebrows and strong lips. It's gonna look a lot like the Greek, maybe a little bit thinner eyebrows and a little bit more emphasis on like the cheekbone and the chin and giving yourself a nice cleft chin, and less emphasis on the nose and the cheekbones there, right? For women, this is all of like trying to make them look like the traditional Mary Madonna, the mother of Jesus. So this is angelic, kind of pale skin, soft eyes, small lips, long necks, trying to make themselves look as pretty and girlish and as if they weren't spending hours and hours outside in the sun, which noble women were not. They had the luxury of not having to do that. So I'm actually going to start with my lightest color. For the men, you're gonna start with your darkest color, right? Because you're trying to look more rugged and stronger and a lot closer to the style of makeup that you did for Greek. For women, we're gonna kind of do the opposite of what we did for Greek makeup. So Italian Renaissance makeup for women is very light, very soft. We're not trying to give ourselves a really strong, big, like long nose and square jawline. We're trying to make our jawline soft and pretty. We're trying to make our nose petite and pretty. The lips, I'm just gonna put base over them, basically just erase the lips a little bit there. The eyebrows are going to be a lot thinner and a lot less pronounced, and you're not gonna put any kind of eye makeup on at all, right? Because you're trying to look more soft. So, I didn't go down my neck at all. That was a choice. Make sure that you're bringing the makeup down the neck. Talking while putting makeup on your neck is difficult. So starting with the contouring for this, I'm gonna go in with my darker color and just do cheeks, temples, forehead, nose with the darker color, and then bringing that down the neck. Under the mouth and along the nose and over the eyes. Shadow lines a little deeper on the cheeks than you did for the Greek, and kind of giving yourself a little bit of a curve for that, right? So we're not doing the hard straight lines, we're kind of playing with the curve of the face. So it's not going to be just as angular, it's gonna be a lot softer. So a nice soft line there. So not, but like a nice little swoopy swoop, right? And then the nose contour, I'm going a little bit wider and a little bit lighter with that. And I'm actually not gonna contour my forehead at all because I want it to look higher, right? And cleaning out this brush because it has all the lip stuff in it. So the highlight placement is going to be especially important for this one. So where the shadows were really important on the Greek, it's going to be the highlights for the Renaissance. Getting that really brightened face, right? I'm leaving a little bit of space between my highlight and my shadow there, just to really give it that curve, right? And then brightening up under the brows. Placement. And now I can actually start blending. So I'm just going to use my brush so that I don't overblend the highlight. So I really want that to stay as much as possible. And then I'm going to use the sponge. I'm just gonna soften that up. So you should see a distinct difference in style between each of these eras, right? It shouldn't just look like contouring. There should be choices that are conscious to that specific era. Okay, so that's contouring. I'm gonna do cheeks, lips, eyes. So for the cheeks on this one, I'm gonna actually bring it down further. So more here and up. So it's getting into the apples of the cheeks. So if you smile, it should be almost like a triangle shape there. You're filling that in and then going up. This is gonna give it kind of that blushing lady kind of expression, right? And then for the lips, I'm just gonna use this kind of soft peach color that's in your contour wheel. really just focusing on the inside of the lips, not overdrawing them at all. Yeah. And then for the eyebrows, I'm just gonna take this kind of contour brown, so I hopefully won't overdo this. And just doing really thin, I'm not blocking them, but just doing a nice thin layer there, right? Okay. If you want to take a brown pencil and do a little bit of eyeliner, I still have a bunch of eyeliner on from the previous look, but if you want to give yourself a little bit more eyeliner there, just to make the eyes pop a little bit more, you can, but it's important to keep this look as kind of soft as possible. So remember to always powder between looks. I'm not powdering because I'm just rolling from one into the next, but if you don't powder, it doesn't set your makeup and it's going to smudge off onto your costume and it's not going to stay and set for the entire performance. So powdering is really important. All right, that is Renaissance. All right, so now we're going to move on to Elizabethan. So Elizabethan times, we're talking about specifically more Renaissance of the English variety, but for the women, this meant that they had a very pale complexion, even paler than the Italian Renaissance stuff. So Elizabethan is going to be going a little bit closer to that clown white level. So for the Italian Renaissance, I used my lightest color. For this, I'm actually going to be using my highlight as my base. So going very light with this. However, my first step is going to be to do brow blocking. So we talked about a little bit about brow blocking with drag. Zachary talked to you guys about how this is used for blocking out brows. And so I'm going to do kind of my own version of this for brow blocking for women. Men, you're off the hook. You don't have to block your brows for Elizabethan or for Restoraion. You just had to do it for drag and gender reversal. So, ladies, we're gonna be doing brow blocking with just regular Elmer's washable glue stick, right? So the purple one is my fave, so you can actually kind of see where it's going on, and you want to put it on really thick, right? Don't want to skimp on this. Really pressing it down as you go. So you can actually go against the grain of the hairs and you're kind of pressing it up and in. So you're trying to flatten it as much as you possibly can. Get it as flat as possible. So you're not trying to make them look pretty, you're just trying to get them flat. So the more the hairs are piled up on each other, the more height there's going to be to that. And it's only a couple of centimeters, millimeters, whatever, but it's going to still, yeah. So I'm just using that. You can see, focus, there we go. Gluing them down as flat as I possibly can. So we're gonna let that dry for a second. And when that is tacky, so when it is no longer wet, but when it's just a little bit tacky, then I'm going to powder it. And once it's powdered, then I'm gonna do it again. So I'm gonna take a break, do the powdering and everything, and then before I do the base, I'll come back. Okay, we're calling this good enough. So got 3 layers on there. I haven't powdered this last layer yet, so I'm gonna do that. Powder. Like that. Gorgeous. Sorry. Move that. Okay. Love it. All right. So now I'm going to do something called color correction. So I have pretty brown eyebrows, which means that to counteract the brown, I need to do the opposite color of that. So the opposite color of kind of black or cooler eyebrows like what I have, it's going to be an orange. So I'm actually going to mix the yellow and the red and give myself an orange. And I'm just going to brush that on over the hairs that you can still see through there. That's a little yellow. I'll go a little redder with it. There we go. And basically it's gonna look like I'm drawing on orange eyebrows over where my eyebrows actually are, right? But it doesn't have to be super precise. Just on there, right? Then I'm gonna take a sponge and highlight, because that's what I'm using for the base foundation for this, and just sponge it on. So I'm not wiping it on, I'm stippling it on. And so that color correction makes it disappear. Hopefully. Yeah, not bad. I've done worse. All right, so that's brow blocking. Okay, I'm gonna put on the rest of my base and then we'll contour. Okay, so I have base roughly put on. It's not great, but it's what it is. So I'm actually going to use Clown White. Where is my Clown White? There it is. For my highlight, because yeah, it's already the highlight. So we're going for really light on this pale skin. Oh, I haven't talked about the men's look yet, have I? So for Elizabethan, you're going for kind of an angular look. So the angular high forehead and high cheekbones. Again, men, you just don't get to have a ton of fun with these period looks. Like, they're all kind of similar, but it's good practice for just putting makeup on your face. If you want to play around with facial hair for this, you're welcome to. Kind of looking up time period appropriate facial hairstyles, go for it. But yeah, I'm pretty focused on the women's style. So the women were all trying to look more like Queen Elizabeth at this time. So this is going to be really useful for doing Elizabethan Shakespearean pieces. Okay, where do I want to start? Okay, nose. And so obviously it's going to depend on your character, but kind of what was in fashion at that time was the really pale skin, smaller lips, smaller eyes, the blocked brows, so the really heavily plucked brows, and a high forehead. So I'm going to accentuate the forehead and lips, chin, jaw, cheekbones. Yeah, beautiful. And then using my shadow, cheekbones. So for the forehead on this, because we're doing the overly plucked eyebrows, you can't really go from your natural eyebrow up. So we're gonna kind of fake it there, right? So that's not really as low, but it's gonna make my forehead look higher by going a little bit further in. Actually, more of it that shape. And so we're kind of faking where the temples are. So my temple dips are higher than what my temple dips actually are. Yeah. Nose. The book does kind of this fun little crooked Elizabethan nose. If you want to go that route, that's fine. Cool. So I'm doing a little bit under the eye bags there. Again, it's the whole like deathly pale feel to it. And then blending. Rude. I just overblend that. I might have overblended that. All right. I think I'm gonna put a little bit more of a shadow line there and just use my brush. Trying not to overblend that one. Cool. All right, so now I'm just gonna use my brown, this guy, draw in my eyebrows. So I kind of want to go above where my natural eyebrow is. So what I'm going to start with is just mapping out where the eyebrow is going to go. So I'm just going to give myself dots. So I already have kind of the dot of where that tail is going to be, but then a dot at the top and a dot at the corner. So you can kind of see where that eyebrow is going to fall. When you're drawing in eyebrows, it's important not to just do like a line, but to think of it more as like hairs and just kind of, yeah. And these aren't going to be super thick, but they should still definitely be there. Yeah. Lovely. I'm gonna add a little bit of depth to that. Ooh. The black was way more intense than I thought it was gonna be. Okay. We're gonna take some of that off. That black is just excessive. Terrifying. Let's try the bruise wheel brown. It gets a little red for me, but there we go. That's better. Yeah, now we can actually see it. Oh, so gorgeous. All right, so I'm actually going to use my clown white to go in underneath this and kind of clean up that edge a little bit. Really sell the height of that eyebrow, right? So it has this very severe look. Okay, so for the street makeup portion of this, where's my brush? Kind of just on the apples of the cheeks. That. Okay, and then lips, I'm just going to use my peachy color. Perfect. All right, so this is Elizabethan. Good luck. Okay, Restoration and 18th century. Yay! This is one of my favorites, actually. So, kind of the point of recording like this is that I hopefully will not need to take off any of my brow blocking. So I think I might just leave my brows. I should go over this, shouldn't I? Okay. I'm gonna see if I can take the makeup off without taking the glue off. We'll see how this goes. Just kind of lightly, don't rub too hard across that. We'll see. All right. Oh. So remember that you need to be doing primary and secondary research for this. So not just things that are set or photo shoots or stuff that are modern versions, but actually finding reference materials from the time period. This is going to get a lot easier as we get into these later centuries where there are paintings and things like that. And obviously when we get into like Jazz Age, so photography and stuff. But not bad. Still mostly blocked. I'll probably need to do a little bit of touch up on that brow blocking, but hey, she lives. Woo! All right. So the fun thing about Restoration makeup is that now it wasn't just women wearing makeup, everyone was wearing makeup. Yay! So we have men and women's makeup are very similar at this time. This is when we got like fops and dandies and things like that. And so we have men who are wearing just as much, if not more makeup. So they used white rice powder which meant that all of their faces were very white. So we've been kind of, for the women at least, we've been steadily getting whiter with our base. So for this, we're just gonna straight up use Clown White as our base. So for men, women, all y'all, we're gonna be just putting straight up white makeup on. Obviously, the thicker that you're able to put it on, the more white it's going to look. If you do a pretty thin layer, it should still have a certain amount of translucency to it. But yeah. This one's going to be especially important that you go down your neck with it, because otherwise there's going to be a really solid line between the face and the neck. Fortunately, high collars were pretty popular at that time, so for costuming, typically you're going all the way up to here anyway. This is also the time of powdered wigs. So everything was very pale. Make sure that you're also getting up onto your ears with this, just to pull it into the same world. Yeah. And I'm going to do some color correction on my brows. I'm going to try to go a little bit more yellow with it this time and not quite so red, just that it covers a little bit easier. All right, so now that we have color corrected brows, we can make them disappear. Delightful. Make sure that you're getting all the way up into the hairline. Yeah. So I think that I'm actually going to powder this in between. Oh, I need to contour first, but before I try to put any of the day makeup on, I'm gonna powder this so that it doesn't go anywhere. It looks pretty patchy still, so I'm going to go back in with another layer, a highlight on top, like that. But I really can't blend this very much. So even just touching it a couple more times is going to get rid of the highlight entirely. You want to be really careful with the shadow for this. So you don't want to go too heavy. So find your shadow placement. Just lightly put it in. So I'm not really blending this with a beauty blender or anything at all with the sponge, just using the brushes. Because otherwise it's going to overblend. I say that, but then I want that to be a little softer and this to be a little softer. Okay. Cool. So again, with the eyebrows, I decided this one worked. Don't sneeze. Mark out where it's going to actually sit, and you can go pretty exaggerated on this. So above where your natural eyebrows are. And on this you can draw a pretty specific line. And then leave the thin tail. And it can be very drawn on, overdone kind of feeling to it. Okay. Okay, for the lips. They really liked, for men and women, to have this really cute little center pout. So I call it the Queen of Hearts. So you're just gonna draw a little heart shape on your lips. And fill that in. And everyone can use the really intense red for this. Sorry about that. So it gives it that really extreme pout. And I'm gonna try and cover up these outer corners even more. So it gives that extreme puckered pout look. And then for blush, have both men and women really strong rosy cheeks, just right in the apple right there. Right in the center. Oh, I forgot to powder. Oh well. So the last thing, oh wait, eye makeup. So for this one, you want to do a pretty strong eyeliner. You can do a little bit of wing to it. Have fun. So, eyeliner. If you do want to use the eyeliner that comes in the kit, I think there is a black one that comes with it. But I prefer to use this, actually. I think it's a little easier to work with. Weird. So yeah, beauty marks. So beauty marks were considered to be really in fashion at this point. This could be a little star, a moon, a heart, whatever shape, a little club, whatever you want to do. So I already have kind of a natural beauty mark right there, so that's usually where I put mine. But I'm just gonna do a little circle, a little dot, just twisting it so that it makes a more perfect circle. Ooh. All right. So this is Restoraion. Have fun. Okay, so we're gonna go a little bit of out of order for these last two. So Jazz Age and Edwardian, just because Jazz Age, I like to do a blocked brow as well, just because it helps really get that thin brow appearance. And so I'm really pushing this blocked brow that I did, but we're gonna see if I can just keep rolling with it and hopefully get all three of my blocked brow looks done with just having to block it once. We'll see. It's gonna get a little janky here, but yeah. So we're gonna go out of order. So next would technically be Edwardian. However, I'm gonna do Jazz Age first and then go back and do Edwardian. So maybe when I edit this, I'm gonna, nah, you'll be fine. Oh, that's terrifying. Okay. Get the ears. Oh no. Oh, she's coming off. The nice thing about blocking your brows is that it does come off pretty easy. However, if you have to start over, yeah. It means that we're gonna get a little rough. Okay, I might have to do some touch up with this brow blocking. Of course, now my hands are covered in cold cream. There we go. Let's try and fix up those blocks a little bit more. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to dry, and I can powder it, let's talk a little bit about Jazz Age. So Jazz Age is kind of the 1920s into the 1930s, and this was the Roaring 20s. This is what really marked the start of what we think of as being modern makeup. So there were fads in previous eras where women would sometimes wear makeup, sometimes not. But pretty much after this point is when women started wearing makeup on a daily basis, that it became more acceptable that women wore makeup. Before this point, for like the Edwardian period and such, women wearing heavy makeup really wasn't done. This was just something that came into fashion in the Roaring 20s and then kind of stuck around for the rest of history. So this is where men and women's makeup diverges a little bit more. So men's makeup is going to be a lot more like what you think of as being just a straight up character makeup, just a basic contour. Men were typically clean shaven. they usually had more youthful faces. They were trying to make themselves look younger. So this means a pretty straight brow, high cheekbones, full lips. You're not trying to downplay your youth in this. You're trying to make yourself look as fresh-faced and as pretty as possible without going like super overboard with the rouge or anything. Yeah, women, on the other hand, lots of fun. This is when things like red lipstick and fake lashes and drawn on eyebrows, things like that became really popular. So let's see if, oh yeah, she's almost dry. All right. All right, so women, you can go back to more of a neutral color at this point. We've been kind of getting steadily lighter and lighter. So I'm gonna go back to just using my medium base for this. Of course, I have a lot of white on this sponge now, so we'll see how this goes. But we're just going for more of the neutral, natural look. But this means putting base on to help just smooth out our skin, cover any blemishes or whatnot. So yeah, this was kind of the start of street makeup. And so that's kind of what it looks like, is more like similar to modern street makeup. So not any of this powdered face, really hyper stylized stuff, but just what you would wear on a day-to-day basis, she says, with her brows blocked and looking crazy. Yeah, so highlight and shadow, just regular contour. We're not trying to give ourselves a high forehead. We're not trying to bring the face in. We're just straight up plain makeup for the contour. So I'm gonna do the contour and then we'll check back in. Okay, so some things I thought about while I was doing that is the fact that Jazz Age, you kind of want to do more of a cutesier little nose. They were all about like the round face, so I tried to do a little bit rounder face with my contouring. So I'm really accentuating that kind of rounded feel to the face, trying to make myself look as kind of cutesy as possible with just the face shape. So you can kind of see that kind of shape, right? All right. Oh God, the eyebrows are something. Would not recommend taking off 2 sets of eyebrows and then trying to do it again. So for this, I'm gonna do a pretty strong eyeliner with a pretty big wing. Yeah. And then dark eyebrows. So I'm gonna start pretty far in, go up above where my natural eyebrow is, and then finish the tail kind of even with where my natural eyebrow goes. So starting there, oh, I need to bring that in a little bit more. Starting there, going up above, ending with the natural tail. Kind of mapping out where that's gonna go. I'm doing kind of a mixture of black with the darker brown in the contour palette. Ooh, it's very dark. And then just drawing that on. So I'm going with the flat side of the brush up and then the thin side of the brush down. So it gets a little bit more, I don't know, thicker and then thinner. So thicker on this part, but that nice long tail, very jazz agey, and the strong arch. Yeah. I've done better jazz age eyebrows. These are not beautiful, but we'll get there. So then for the lips, I'm going to use the bright red again, and this is going to be really similar to the lips that we did for Restoration. Yeah, for Restoration in 18th century, but not quite. So still kind of that heart shape up on either side of the Cupid's bow. But we're not going like, we're not just keeping it right here. We're going out to the ends with that. And then on the bottom lip, accentuating that dip down there. So it doesn't go all the way to the corners. It's definitely giving an exaggerated pout, but I like that color better. Just mix some of this into it. I think that works better. I still wish I had a truer red. And then I'm actually going to go back in with my base and try and cover up those corners just to really exaggerate that line. Yeah. And same on the top. There we go. And then the cheeks for this, we're going to actually go a little bit lower, so more along the shadow line here and up. So we're not going across the top, we're not going onto the apples, we're just kind of going under the cheeks and up with it. Like that. Soften that out a little bit. All right. And this is Jazz Age. Cool. Thanks, everyone. All right. Let's move on to Edwardian. Edwardian time. Okay. So women probably weren't really wearing makeup during this time period. So everything between Restoration and Jazz Age, pretty natural looks, and didn't change a whole lot. So this is going to take you from basically end of the 1700s up until the 1900s. But Edwardian is just one specific time period that the book chose to highlight in this. Because there were some more specific looks. So men had more of a rugged and aged kind of look in this time period, whereas women were supposed to look more soft and feminine. The big eyes, the big lips, the soft cheeks, things like that. Yeah, so men, for this, you're going with really straight lines, angular cheeks, high cheekbones, straight nose, darker lips, just very masculine in the stereotypical sense with this, whereas women, you're going for more of the soft and feminine. So I'm gonna put on my contour. Again, this is just kind of just stage contour stuff from the highlights and shadows. And I'll talk to you guys in a minute. Okay, so we have contour on. I'm gonna do a little bit more contouring around my eyes. So going up into the center corner like that, and then kind of just feathering that out to help accentuate the eyes. And then going in with the clown white, going underneath the eyebrows there, there. So this is kind of in lieu of doing eyeshadow. Yeah, to help make the eyes pop more. And then doing a little bit of brown eyeliner. Like that. And then filling in my natural eyebrows. This one looks good, this one does not. All right, and then for the blush on this one, I'm going to be putting just a little bit of blush right in between the highlight and shadow there. Just to help the youthfulness. And for the lip, I'm going to use this kind of rose color here. And do a full lip. You don't really need to overdraw it, but fill them in. You can also use the lip liner on this one. Mine is very broken. So using the lip liner, get a nice crisp line around the lips. All right. And that is Edwardian. Yeah, good luck everyone, have fun.